You're watching the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. I'm Tyler Jones, and coming up on today's program, despite the Thunder losing to the Detroit Pistons last night, the vibes are pretty good. I'll explain more in a bit.
I'm Rylan Stiles. Let's talk about Cason Wallace's strong stretch and how it can matter in the playoffs.
I'm Jay Lamb. I'm gonna talk about Jay Will and how he stepped up.
This is Locked On's Thunder Squad Show, the twice-a-week show where Thunder talk gets real. No filters, no fluff, just raw takes, sharp opinions, and straight-up passion for the game, the way only Locked On Podcast Network knows how. Let's drop some dimes and squad up. The Thunder Squad Show starts now.
Glad to have you with us here on this Thursday edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones, Rylan Stiles, Jeremy Lamb here with you. Thanks for joining us. Today's show is presented by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too, folks. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and it's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com. or Amazon. We got so much to talk about here on today's show, folks. We are, in a moment, going to talk about the vibes after last night's loss to Detroit. The Thunder without 6 players, and yet they still held their own against the Detroit Pistons, a game that still came down right to the very end. We'll talk about that coming up in just a moment. Jay Will was phenomenal last night, with arguably the best game of his entire career. We'll talk about Jay Will coming up in our second segment. Cason Wallace, we know he's a heck of a defender, but he has turned things up on the offensive end the last 3 games. We'll touch on that. And then we'll have the latest on the MVP race. SGA still out. The 65-game rule is certainly making things interesting. We'll explain what's going on there as we wrap up today's show. Guys, let's begin with looking back on last night's game against the Detroit Pistons. The Thunder fall to Detroit 124-116. This game was built up to be a pretty big deal. The number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, the number 1 team in the West, going up head-to-head as each side battles for home court in the NBA, for the NBA Finals, that is. And Oklahoma City played pretty well for the most part, and things kind of got away there in the second half as Detroit started to pull away to get an 8-point win. But overall, you had a number of guys step up. A big night for Jaylin Williams. As mentioned, we'll talk more about him later with 30 points. You also had 23 from Cason Wallace, 20 from Jared McCain and Aaron Wiggins as well. And then Kenrich Williams had 13 points for Oklahoma City. So even without their top guys, the depth was on full display. And, Jeremy, I'm not one for moral victories by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think you are either. But I can't imagine Mark had to be too mad about last night. I would think that, you got to feel pretty positive with, you could call it the Thunder's JV team going toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the NBA on the road. I was impressed even with the loss last night. What say you?
Yeah, we definitely, you're not into moral victories, but at the end of the day, they played great. They gave it all they had. And the positives out of it is people are doing things that we didn't realize they could do. I mean, Cason Wallace, Jay Will, Wiggins, we knew everybody can hoop, but at the same time, you wonder how it's going to be when they got to have the ball in their hands, when they got to take big shots, make big plays, and they're stepping to the challenge. At the end of the day, they didn't have enough yesterday just because, obviously, the stars are out and stuff like that. But it shows that there's still a team that's 1 through 15. Detroit is one of the best teams in the league. Back in the day, Russ used to always say, like, I can't wait till it's a month and a half, 2 months into the season to see everybody level out. And Detroit is showing that they're not a team that, can just start good or, have a good half a season. The season is too long to really, when the season is 82 games, so you could play great for 40 games, but then lose the next 20. Like it's gone. It goes up and down. So they're proving that, they are a great team. And for OKC to be staying toe to toe with them, and people probably would have thought, oh, they're gonna get blown out. They don't got, all their players, but they played great. They, like I said, they didn't have enough to, finish the job. But at the end of the day, they're 1 through 15. A lot of people played well. Career night from Jay Will. Cason is continuing to play great. Like I said, Wiggins, Topich, everybody just doing their job. So I think it's a blessing in disguise that everybody's getting this opportunity.
Rylan, what's kind of your thoughts on what you saw from Oklahoma City last night?
Yeah, you got to be very encouraged with what Oklahoma City was able to do. And you look at this recent stretch here, and they've been so shorthanded, and yet they had 8 available guys in San Antonio just before the All-Star break, took them to clutch time. They beat Cleveland at home on Sunday, snapping their 7-game winning streak. And they got Detroit on the road, second night of a road back-to-back, and got that game into clutch time as well against all odds. So this is a team that continues to show you that they are the most deepest talented team in the NBA, and they're the best team in the NBA as long as they get healthy. And that's the big question mark. Either this team will be healthy for the postseason and be the best team in basketball, or they won't be healthy. And so we'll have to wait and see on that front. But these games where you're able to drag Detroit into clutch time and San Antonio into clutch time, these bona fide, legitimate title contenders with at best your C team out there, it should give you a lot of confidence moving forward that the Thunder truly still are the best team in the NBA.
Jeremy, one thing I like about last night, and to Rylan's point of the last few games, is that this team, you very well could say in this circumstance, like, oh, we're playing Detroit, best team in the East. We don't have a shot tonight, and just kind of back off the brakes a bit, kind of back off the gas rather. But that's not the case. This team still came out extremely motivated. They put their best effort, like the willpower for this team to still show up, in a game like this. Like they don't play scared at all, even when they're shorthanded here.
Yeah, they could have definitely tried to, use that as an excuse. They could have been like, we're gonna go out there and play hard, but whatever. We might lose, we might not, whatever. They was out there playing like they felt like they were supposed to win. They wasn't just out there just hooping. They felt like they were supposed to win. And, it showed on the court. Got off to a great start. Couldn't quite finish it. But at the end of the day, if you're a coach, you can't be like mad. Again, you don't want to use it as an excuse, but at the end of the day, you're shorthanded. And you want to go out there and still show that you could play. He's putting great lineups out on the floor. People out there playing hard. People are still, playing their role. But like you said, they could have just chalked it up as a loss and just, use it as an excuse. But no, they was out there playing like they felt like they should win the game. And they almost had it. But at the end of the day, that's how basketball goes. It's a long season. And the laws of averages and all that, it's going to pan out. Everything's going to come, everything's going to happen how it's supposed to. But I'm just happy they ain't try to use it as an excuse, and they looked like they were supposed to be out there, even though they were shorthanded.
Oh, no question about it. I was reading one of the Thunder sites, not SI Thunder, by the way. And I say that because there was a take that was put out there about how Aaron Wiggins, this was a couple days ago, how much he's struggling and might fall out of grace and not be in the rotation and all this. And, that he had not played that great the last few games. And then last night, he goes off for 20 points, plays 35 minutes. I mean, like in this stretch, without the main guys, Rylan, like we've seen a little bit of everybody step up. Maybe not all at the same time, but like we've seen different guys rise to the occasion, some more than others, but it gives you hope. You talk about that deep bench, like, hey, there's a lot to work with here at various different times and depending on matchups too.
Yeah, it goes back to the Thunder's culture. I mean, the Thunder culture is everything that they would always say about Heat culture back in the day, but the Thunder personify that this season. And it all stems from just going out there and not packing it in, despite the fact that on paper last night you're supposed to get beat by 20 to this Detroit team that was hungry to wash the bad taste out of their mouth after losing to San Antonio, that was fully healthy outside of Isaiah Stewart, who is still serving his league suspension, and they're at home on the second night of back-to-back welcoming in OKC. They should have just really dominated that game, and they never truly did. And the Thunder kept fighting to the point where all these hustle stats, like these 50-50 balls, turned into 80-20 Thunder's way in this game. You look at the Thunder last night, despite not having a center outside of J. Will on the court, they had their most second chance points of the entire season last night, creating 30 of them. That's a big deal against a big physical imposing team in Detroit. The Thunder were still able to scrap for loose balls, get long rebounds, fight on the glass. And whenever you work that hard, good things are going to happen. And they have the talent there to have somebody step up and have somebody play well. And they also have built a team. And this is where the experience, I think, matters, of all these guys at different parts of their careers have had huge success. I mean, Wiggins last year couldn't stop scoring the ball, and he's been really bad over this recent stretch when it comes to his efficiency. His handle's been a bit looser. He has not been as polished recently. And in this game, he had some of the worst misses he's ever had in his NBA life from three to start this game. And in the fourth quarter, he becomes efficient. He gets to the free throw line. He shoots 50% from the floor. He gets the bulk of his 20 points in that final frame because of what he's able to do in the sense of his confidence. Jay Will in his career. You look at last year rattling off 3 triple-doubles in a similarly banged-up stretch whenever they were resting because of their record. He was able to step up then. He was able to step up in that second-round series against Denver. And now yesterday, he's able to step up for 30 points. And so everyone finds a way to buy in, and everyone finds a way to just put out their best stuff. And yeah, I mean, their best stuff last night wasn't good enough to win, but again, it was good enough to be more competitive than anybody ever thought it would be. And you can envision that, like, if the Thunder had more than just a skeleton crew out there, that they could have gotten that win on the second night of a back-to-back and continued their winning streak. So it's been a very impressive stretch for Oklahoma City. Even that loss to Houston before the All-Star break at home on a Saturday afternoon, it's just been very impressive to see Oklahoma City have this level of fight in them and kind of stay true to their identity.
Yeah, they've won 3 of their last 4 since the All-Star break. And now, Jeremy, tomorrow night, Denver Nuggets come to town. And, with that in mind, that's going to be something else. Like, kind of like with this Detroit game, I don't think, we expect Oklahoma City to win. They expect to win. But, like, show another good valiant effort here against a very good Denver team would go a long ways here. See these guys step up again.
Yeah, and I think they will. It's another opportunity for people to, to show what they can do with the opportunity that they have. When you're on a championship team, it's tough to carve out consistent minutes at times, and unless you're the star or whatever, it's hard to carve out those minutes. So I think they'll step up to the challenge, which, yeah, it's going to be a big challenge, but it'll be different. They playing at home, right?
Yes.
It's a home game? Yeah, so again, it'll be a challenge. Obviously, we know what Denver brings. They got not only a star, but they got great role players. So yeah, they got a lot on their team, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of opportunity that these guys have wanted. They want to play, they want to show what they can do. They don't always get the opportunity to do it, and now I think they'll step up to the challenge and again show what they can do. But it'd be better playing in front of the home crowd. They can feed off them, they'll give them a little energy, and hopefully they can pull it out. But again, they're not going to use it as no excuse. If they lose, they still want to win. But I think they can pull it out, being at home, being frustrated after this loss yesterday. I think the momentum at home, I think they'll be able to pull it out, and it'll be a good one.
Rylan, looking ahead here for Oklahoma City, you got that game against Denver coming up tomorrow, 8:30 tip time at home. Then you play Dallas on the road on Sunday, Chicago on the road Tuesday, and then we're talking about teams like the Knicks on the road. The Warriors come to town. Then you play the Nuggets again, and that's followed by the Celtics here. Just a brutal stretch of games for Oklahoma City, really dating back since the end of the All-Star break here.
Yeah, I mean, the Thunder have the hardest schedule the rest of the way, and that's going to be a stretch that really kind of defined what they're able to do when it comes to home court, whether it be for the Western Conference or the NBA. You got to get that game again in Dallas. You got to get that game in Chicago because New York on the second night of a back-to-back will be tough. The Warriors is a game you have to win, regardless of who's in and out. And then you got Denver, Boston, and Minnesota for the end of that homestand, and that's going to be a very tough challenge as well. Then you head out east, and you have some more gimmies with Orlando, Brooklyn, Washington, Philadelphia, but then you play Boston right there again. So it just shows you that for the rest of the way, you're going to be playing a lot of top-of-the-line teams because you didn't see them earlier on this year, and that's why it's so critical to get healthy and to have some of the guys return. We'll see about Shai's reevaluation. It's right here. He was announced on last Thursday that he'd be out for approximately a week before they reevaluated it, and we're sitting here at a week. So we'll see what that has to say. Likely, of course, later on tonight, whenever the first injury report comes out. But the Thunder need to get healthy really fast because the schedule is really tough.
It does indeed. More to come. We'll talk specifically about Jay Will and the night that he had last night with 30 points and one of the best games, if not the very best game of his career. What does his role look like going forward when everybody gets back healthy? Plus, Cason Wallace has played really well the last 3 games, specifically on the offensive end. We'll discuss that as well as we continue here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Stay with us. Welcome to the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, and cotton candy. There's something different for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got the number 1 pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. And my selection, folks, I have to go with the cotton candy, a delicious swirl of sugary clouds, a fruity twist, a hint of vanilla, the sweet side of tasty caffeine. Throwback flavor with a boost, light, airy candy profile, nostalgic carnival-style taste, pure sweetness from start to finish, sweet tooth fix without any sugar guilt. And folks, 5-hour energy shots give you a boost with 0 sugar. Yes, you heard that right. 5-hour energy has a lot of upcoming flavor initiatives planned. And folks, the flavor, the way that it gets made and affects you, I mean, you're going to love it, folks. And you have a limited time with some of these flavors that they're offering from 5-hour energy. And, you know, you got to take advantage of it while they're still around, folks. Find your favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Check it out now. Welcome back to the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones, Rylan Stiles, Jeremy Lamb back here with you now. Thank you for making the Locked On Thunder podcast your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. Access to an ad-free audio feed for the Locked On Thunder podcast, capable with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other major podcast apps. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners this show, where you can interact with Rylan. All you need to do, folks, is go to lockedonthunder.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Join the club today. All right, guys, let's talk now about what we saw last night from Jay Will. A big performance from him, 30 points, 9 of 14 from the field, 5 of 10 from three-point range, 7 of 7 from the line with 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. It was a night to remember for Jaylin Williams, Rylan. He was so impressive with the way that he stepped up last night in every way.
Yeah, I mean, he was really critical for this team, especially trying to battle Detroit with their size. Obviously, Duren had an impeccable stretch in the middle of the game where he was just unstoppable, which was understandably so. But this was made more so impressive by the fact that not only did he have 2 and 1s and some strong drives, but at the 7-minute mark of the game, 7.5 minutes to go, he drives to the rim on Cade Cunningham and ends up landing awkwardly, and the Thunder had to call a timeout to let him regroup. And you're thinking, okay, here's another injury for OKC as he was limping to the bench. And yet he stayed in there, and not just stayed in there, played really well, in that stretch, getting to 30 points, obviously, and doing it all in his confined role, where so often you can see a team be this shorthanded and see guys trying to do too much. But with Jay Will, it was pick and pop threes, catch and shoot threes. He was operating the DHO to get his teammates involved with some assists. And then he showed off his improved play off the catch ability to get to the rim as well. So I thought that with Jay Will, it was a very efficient night, very under controlled night, career high 30 points, tying the career high with 5 made threes. He just did everything right on the offensive end, and defensively, he really battled and held his own in a very tough matchup as a guy who's obviously not vaunted as a defender by any stretch, but holding 11 rebounds in this game for a double-double, had a steal, had a block. Like, he was just really impactful in everything that the Thunder needed from him. He was aggressive. He got to the line, had the couple and ones, and then also knocked down those threes. So I thought that he was awesome in this game for OKC. And you've seen this before from Jay, where we talked about the 3 triple doubles he had at the end of last year, stepping up. Obviously, he swung the second round series against Denver and won you a championship by way of that, because he didn't need to play. He couldn't play against Memphis, Minnesota, or Indiana due to matchups. But without him, you don't swing that Denver series, and all of that other stuff is a moot point. So he has a knack for stepping up for this team, regardless what his role needs to be. But I was thoroughly impressed that he played 36 minutes last night, the most on the team, whenever he had a bum ankle after about the 7:30 mark in the opening frame.
Jeremy, we've seen Jay Will the last few weeks. We were talking about it on this show just last week, I believe, about how well he had stepped up in the month of February. And we were kind of building towards this. And now he has a night like he had last night, Jeremy. I felt like that's kind of a breakthrough. Like, I'm sure you had those moments too, where you were getting close, and then boom, all of a sudden things blossom. Like, yes, they lost, but that's got to feel fulfilling for Jay Will to have that night that was his, like last night.
Yeah, his night, it probably would have felt better to him if they had won the game. But at the end of the day, he can look in the mirror and say he gave it everything he got. He's known for taking charges, making the right plays, shooting that open three. But yesterday, the way he was catching and shooting, still making plays, but it shows that he can do more than just his role. And OKC have a whole team of players that know their role, and that's what he does. He does his role. But a night like last night, it shows that he can step up. And I feel like he could do that in the playoffs as well. You don't always need him to do it, but at the end of the day, if you do need, that scoring punch off the bench, or someone to take charges, or someone to get their nose dirty, he can do all of it. He's made some great backdoor passes that not even point guards are making. He's threading the needle. So, again, to see him do that last night, take on the scoring load, again, yeah, they wasn't able to finish it and all that, but he could look in the mirror and say, he gave it all he's got, or all he had, and, his hard work is paying off. Those are the type games when you realize, like, you can see that you're getting better. You can see what your hard work is doing for your game. So, yeah, he had a great game. Again, wish he had won, but, it's all good.
Rylan, with the way that he's continued to step up, I would think that his role when everybody gets back and when we get close to the playoffs is going to be more significant than ever before.
I think that his role is what it is. It's going to be the same guy that we saw a year ago, where perhaps you can allow yourself to play Chet and Neihardt together for longer stretches and not be so concerned with staggering those guys, because you can trust Jay Will to play a big role off the bench as your backup center. But it'll be largely dependent upon matchups. If you're playing a team like San Antonio or Denver or Detroit or Cleveland, who has these double big lineups that they want to throw out there and who has some size in their front court, he's going to have a much more expanded role. If you're playing a team that likes to push the pace and plays pretty small, like you saw last postseason, he's going to have his role really diminished. So I think that that's going to be where he still sits. He's a much better player than he was a year ago, but those are still the same limitations that sit there for him, to where he will be someone who is almost a victim of how the bracket will shake out for them. And it could shake out in a way where he's very much needed for every round of the playoffs, but it also could shake out in a way like last year where he's an incredibly important key cog to what they're trying to do to win a championship, but it only amounts to one massive playoff series. So I think it'll still be about how the bracket shakes out, but he has individually gotten a lot better, and perhaps you do trust him more now. If you are having a lot of success against a smaller team with your own double big lineup, then perhaps you do let that ride for 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes at a time, knowing that on the back end, you have to play J-Will for some 3-minute stretches here, but you'll feel pretty confident in doing so. So I think that the difference in his role could be negligible, but also it's still going to be a little bit improved from where it was last year.
Yeah, we're live here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones, Rylan Stiles, Jeremy Lamb here with you on this Thursday afternoon. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on the program. With Jaylin Williams here, Jeremy, the thing that I point to is you see where he's at now compared to what he was when he walked in the building a few years ago. And, former second-round pick, wasn't thought highly out of, coming out of Arkansas by most people. And here he is, playing the best basketball of his career. This is a direct testament to Sam and Mark and how well they know how to develop guys. He's a direct byproduct of this system here, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the most athletic. Sometimes people always want a big to be able to catch lobs, and he can catch a lob, but he might be hesitant to throw it sometimes, depending on who's down there. But he's a different type big. He makes plays, he takes charges, he can move his feet. Not every big can move his feet on the pick and roll. Most bigs are undisciplined, trying to block shots. And then they'll leave their big open. He's, again, a charge taker. He's a playmaker. He's a three-point shooter. He's the big that everybody wants in this day and age of basketball. He's not your typical big. He does things that guards do. So for him to develop, keep his nose down and just keep working, and you see the fruits of his labor now, it's great to see that. That's the thing that gives you confidence. When you see the work you're putting in is paying off, it makes you want to work harder. Or at least that's how I was. If I hit a step back, I wanted to go work on my step back a little bit more. If I hit some threes, I wanted to work on my three a little bit more. And I think that's what their whole team is built on, and that's what J-Will is doing. He's seeing the fruits of his labor, and he's just going to keep working, keep getting better, no matter what the typical big looks like. He knows his role. He knows who he is, and what his strengths and weaknesses are on the court.
Rylan, last offseason, he got that nice extension, securing his future. What do you see being the end game for Jaylin Williams? What do you think his peak is going to be, and what's that look like with this Thunder team down the line?
Yeah, I think that he can get to a point where he can be their backup center. That would be if he just really hit the top of the line ceiling, which not a ton of players do hit their number one outcome of their ceiling. But right now, you look at him, he is the best third string center that the NBA has to offer, and he's under such a team-friendly contract where he is locked up through 2027-28 if the Thunder pick up that team option. And this is the most he's going to make on that contract. Right now he's playing on an $8.4 million deal. Next season and the year after that, it's $7.7 million, which as the cap continues to grow up and it continues to grow, that's going to be nothing to be paying a rotational player. It's such a team-friendly deal and he's so important and integral to their locker room that he's going to be in this Thunder uniform for the foreseeable future. And I think that he's very comfortable in Oklahoma City. The Thunder are very glad to have him. So anywhere from their third string center to he could play a year as their backup center whenever you're looking at it. And you've got some decisions to make on Isaiah Hartenstein and Thomas Schwarber being a redshirt rookie coming back from injury. He'd be incredibly valuable for them next year, especially as this cost controlled deal would suggest. So he's going to play at a baseline level. He's going to have the same role he's having this year. At the max level, he could be their backup center, and with his improved athleticism and his improved defense, could get the job done.
More to come.
Quick question. Hold on.
Jeremy.
Quick question. Rylan, do you think he would be one of the 8 protected players in the expansion draft?
So if you're going to base it upon this season, as in like this offseason, which is whenever the draft wouldn't happen, it would be no for me with Jay Will. But if the expansion draft more likely is going to take place in 27, 28 or past that, and at that point, the Thunder might not have as deep of a roster as they have right now. But ultimately, I don't think that he'd be protected. I also don't think that he'd be selected. I think that whenever you look at the draft, the teams can only take one from you. So both teams only get one crack at OKC. So you can only lose one player. And you're going to have to unprotect some guys who are much more valuable than a backup center. But I think that he'd be left unprotected if the draft were to happen this summer. And I don't think that he'd be selected.
Fascinating. Well, we'll see what happens as far as that goes. More to come. Squad show in a moment. Let's talk Cason Wallace. He's played really good the last 3 games on the offensive end. We'll touch on that. In the MVP race, how are things stacking up with SGA out right now and that 65-game rule coming into play? We'll discuss all of that and more as we continue here on the Thunder Squad Show. Stay with us. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I pulled up the Game Time app, picked an upcoming NBA game, and had tickets locked in within minutes. Loved seeing the all-in price up front, no surprise fees at checkout, being able to zoom in and view the seat before buying made the decision easy. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Welcome back to the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones, Rylan Stiles, Jeremy Lamb here with you on this Thursday. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Let's talk about one of Jeremy Lamb's favorite players, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Cason Wallace, has played very well the last few games, as last night he scored 23 points, going 9 of 17 from the field, 3 of 6 from three-point range, as well as 5 assists, a steal, and 2 rebounds. Against Toronto, he had 27. Cleveland, he had 20 points. Jeremy, we know that Cason Wallace is one of the best defensive players in the entire league, but the offense has been on display. That's gone up a few levels with him the last few games here.
Yeah, I have to say I'm a little surprised. Like, I knew he was good offensively, but I didn't know he could be that good. And I think it just shows his ceiling. Because when you're a young player in the league, something that I didn't do is play defense. That's what gets you on the court. And he could potentially be one of the best offensive players and defensive players on his team. You know, obviously he's not going to be the best offensive player, but he could be an option, you know, out of timeouts. He's tough. He does it on both ends of the court. You know, he's not a liability on either end. At first, you know, you was a little nervous if he shoot the ball. Now you want him to shoot those threes. You want him to shoot them with confidence. So just seeing him the last couple games, being able to get in his offensive bag, like you said, Tyler, everyone knows what he does, what he hangs his hat on, and that's defense. You know, he always guards the best players, or the second best player, depending on who's in the game. But most of the time, even no matter if Lou Dort is in the game, whoever, Cason Wallace still guarding the best player on the other team. So he can guard 1 through 4, sometimes 1 through 5, depending on the other team's personnel. But just to see his offensive game really come to light and really, just know that you can depend on him on both ends. That's a great thing. That's a coach's dream. Sometimes you want somebody in there for defense, but you're nervous on the other end. Or sometimes you want somebody in there for offense, but you're nervous on the other end. With him, there's nothing in his game that you're nervous about. Maybe, I don't know, his handle, he can continue to work on that, but even that's gotten better. And a handle is something that can definitely get better. Some people, just don't have the shooting touch or whatever. Handles, you can go do 2-ball dribbles and just get better in, 2 weeks if you really put your mind to it. So just seeing his offensive game get better and better, that's encouraging, not just for him, but his teammates, his coaches, the fans, everybody. So that's great to see.
Rylan, your thoughts on what we've seen from Cason Wallace here?
Yeah, it's been very encouraging. And obviously this isn't going to be his ideal role once his team is fully healthy, or he's not going to be initiating the offense. He's not going to have such a high usage rate. He's not going to have 20 points per game whenever this team is fully healthy. But what you do here is you watch this sample size continue to grow, and you envision what can you extract from that and put it into his ideal role. And one of the biggest ways I think that it can help in the postseason is Jeremy's point about his handle getting a lot better. And it has been a lot better in this recent stretch. And this is a guy who in the previous 2 postseasons, he's been a more stationary guy in those corners. And whenever you kick it out to him, he makes quick decisions, either passes it to the next guy or shoots it. But now with some improved confidence and some improved wiggle on the ball, now you can start attacking those hard closeouts off the catch and either get to the rim to score or probe the lane, get the ball back out to the top of the key and keep the defense moving and put them in a blender of sorts as an off-ball player, as a connective playmaker in that way. And that can really help change the Thunder's half-court offense from where it labored at times the last 2 playoffs. It can really help improve that with whatever lineups that he's a part of. So the improved nature of him breaking down guys off the dribble is, I think, going to benefit him in the long haul. While it will not look one-to-one how it's had right now, and you might not be able to tell it because it's going to be such a small difference, but if you've seen him and you compare and contrast him from this year to last year, I think that's the biggest way that he's going to grow, is being able to punish these teams who fly out to him and get a one dribble fly-by 3, which he's shot a lot over the last couple of games. He's done that a lot more than he has in the past, or just straight up attacking the rim off of these hard closeouts and either finding himself a bucket, finding his teammates a bucket, becoming a playmaker there. So these are ways where, yes, the stretch in terms of the raw numbers could be considered fool's gold, but how he's getting to these numbers can translate to what this team needs from him when they're fully healthy.
In the last 3 games, he has shot from three-point range, guys, 57.89%. So roughly 58% from 3. Safe to say, Jeremy, that he's on a hot streak right now. He's feeling himself here.
Oh, yeah. He better be feeling himself. I mean, he out there doing his thing. So, I mean, I know me. If I hit 3 threes in a game, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm like that. So, for him to be out there, I mean, he's shooting floaters, throwing lobs, hitting threes, handling the ball. He doing everything for them right now. Like y'all said, yeah, his usage rate won't be, that the rest of the season, which that's understandable. When Shai and Jay Will, when they come back, it's like, the ball, it needs to be in their hands. That's when they're a better team, which, makes sense. But again, he's showing what he can do if you do have to rely on him for a 5-game, 10-game stretch, or 1 playoff game, 2 playoff games, a playoff series. He's showing what he can do, and that's he can hit that 3, he can spot up, he can play on the ball, and he's only going to get better. His work ethic seems to be top notch. So for him to be able to play off the ball beside Shea, and those other guys, Mitchell, but then also take the pressure off of them and still be able to handle and, go create a bucket occasionally or whenever his number is called. That's exciting. So yeah, I would be surprised if I talked to him and he's like, yeah, nah, my confidence not there. Nah, his confidence should be and is through the roof right now. So as long as he keep working, the sky's the limit for him.
Rylan, you look at these 3 games, and we're still waiting to see when a lot of these guys get back. But in the short term, do you think Cason can keep up at this pace that he's been going on the last 3 games here?
Yeah, in the short term, absolutely. I mean, you look at Denver; they're a competitive team. They're a contending team. I think that they are the biggest threat to Oklahoma City. Their defense is terrible. Their defense is in the bottom half of the league, and that's just one of their flaws. They don't have the stoppers necessary to really disrupt Cason individually. Obviously, it'd take a team effort from Detroit. From Denver. Dallas has an awful team. Obviously, they're tanking. Detroit, since Chicago, they're tanking. They're awful. So, in the short term, he can absolutely keep this up if he needs to be the guy. Hopefully, for his sake and the team's sake, that they get some guys back to where he doesn't have to be the guy in these games. But right now, what you're seeing is just a unique ability to break down his guy off the dribble, get to the rim, stop on a dime, step back threes have been a part of his game as well, which is a bit shocking. Perhaps some of the 3-point shot variance comes back to earth a little bit on him, but when it comes to just creating space for himself and creating shots for himself, it all seems very repeatable, especially in the short term, given what you have to go up against.
Yeah, it's been something else for sure from what we've seen from Cason Wallace here, and Jeremy, I would say this too. He's still just 22 years old at this point, and we're seeing him play this level of basketball. I got to think that we're not even close to the peak of what Cason Wallace is going to turn out to be and potentially become down the road.
Wow, I had no clue. He's only 22.
Yes.
What year is this for him?
This is year 3.
Yep.
Oh wow, yeah. I had no clue he's only 22. He's super young. Yeah, he hasn't even reached his prime. He got so much more that he can, just bring to the game, add to his game as he go through the league more and more. As he talk to different players, learn from different coaches. Just it's so much you can learn, and even having a healthy and full off season can help them. Sometimes you're not able to, especially they won the championship last year. You got to have some rest. You can't always go as hard as you really want to because you got to give your body some time to recover. So, I'm sure he was banged up after the finals last year. He definitely had to, do some different things. But at the end of the day, a couple more off seasons, again, learning from different people, knowing how to work not only hard, but smart. A lot of people told me that when I was young in the league, I was trying to just go, 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 go. But sometimes you got to take a day to get in the cold tub, hot tub, cold tub, steam room. All these little things can really help your game and just stay fresh throughout the years. So the more he learns, the more he gets better, the more he works. He can be. Wow, he's only 22. He could be a problem in this league, no question.
Last thing I'll end on this, Rylan. You're in the facility obviously all the time. And Jeremy and I are on the outside, but just from what I hear, Rylan, I never hear anything negative about this guy. From his effort to how he carries himself, how he is as a teammate here. There's a lot. You would have to be really searching to find something not to like about Cason Wallace here.
Yeah, I mean, he gives an all-out effort, whether it's practices or games. He's a really funny guy behind the scenes. I know his press conferences might not show that, but in the locker room, he's actually a really funny guy, and his teammates all love him and rally around him. And I think that when you look at Cason, you're seeing this pop from him. He's almost been a victim of the team's success, where like the team was so good, so fast once they drafted him, but he was so important to how good that team was that he got thrown into just this 3-and-D role because he's so elite defensively and he could knock down some shots. But this is a top 10 prospect in his draft class. This is a guy who has point guard in his DNA, playing there at Kentucky, a Kentucky guard, a Kentucky point guard in his background. And if he was playing for a team that had more defense, had more offensive runway, and had more space for him to grow, he could have really redefined himself as an on-ball player in this league quicker than what he's done now. And that's why you're seeing now this actually be a silver lining for him individually of all these injuries for OKC, is that now he is getting that opportunity to grow as a player. And you're seeing the game slow down for him. You're seeing him do more stuff on the ball, to where at just 22, like I think that the reason why Jeremy is so taken aback and making note of that is because you understand he's only 22, and this is really his first chance to expand his role, and that's still going to happen for many more years now as this team continues to change and this team continues to grow. And Cason Wallace is going to be the beneficiary of that. Like this guy, we almost look at him as a finished product because of how good he's been and because of how good the team has been. He's far from a finished product, and these flashes are really encouraging to see from Cason.
Oh, no question. Absolutely. Final segment ahead here on the Thunder Squad show. Let's talk about the MVP race. The infamous 65-game rule. How could that affect SGA and more? We'll break that down as we wrap things up here on the Thunder Squad show. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Final segment here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad show. Rylan Stiles, Jeremy Lamb, Tyler Jones back here with you. Thanks for hanging out here with us. And folks, let's talk about the MVP race. The 65-game rule is coming into play as we're starting to count down the games for various MVP candidates, not just SGA, by the way. You talk about guys that are close to that number. Besides SGA, you're talking Joker, Victor, Luka, just to name a few. If they all don't hit that 65-game threshold, Cade Cunningham might win this MVP award by default as the only player amongst the top players that might reach that mark. But at least where things stand right now, Rylan, I believe the number is 6 games that SGA cannot miss between now and then, and he still has to be reevaluated. So things are looking pretty close for SGA when it comes to that number. And that doesn't just affect the MVP. We're talking about all postseason awards here.
Yeah, I mean, he's 6 games, he has 6 games of wiggle room remaining for the rest of the way. And it's going to be interesting to see, of course, how this all plays out, because it is not just MVP, but all NBA. And so this rule really does mess with the entire history of the league. And I think that it's one of the worst decisions that Adam Silver has made when it comes to overcorrecting a problem, because you have to trust your voter base. The voter base has never given the MVP award to somebody who was load managing and played under 65 games. Like the only example of a player who would have missed this amount of games that has won an MVP, you have to go all the way back to Bill Walton. And it's like this has not been a problem, and it's not discouraging players from load managing either. All that it's doing is, Jokic has only one game left of wiggle room, and it's like there's a real possibility that you look back on the history of the sport and you say, Shai and Jokic, they weren't even all NBA in 2025, 26. Like, how does that make any sense? Because it doesn't make sense. Because yes, the voters would have always taken into account availability, and sometimes availability is what has pushed over the hump an MVP candidate to win the award. But to punish them at every level like this over legitimate, serious injuries that they've dealt with, that we've seen them deal with, it is ludicrous to me to have this happen and impact your game at a historical level over Kawhi and some other guys who load manage who weren't. It's not like Kawhi stole 5 MVPs by way of load managing. Yes, it hurt the product because he wasn't playing on nights, but that's why you put the player participation policy in place. Like that kind of a policy was about how, hey, if a team's going to load manage you, we're going to find the crap out of you, and you're going to get fined and have to pay the check to sit your guys. But now you've taken it a step further, and you've made a problem out of something that was never there. You've made something actually worse because your voter base has always been able to decipher this without some arbitrary cutoff.
Yeah, and arbitrary is the key. What's the saying? The best ability is availability. And now we're talking about all these guys. I mean, Jeremy, this 65-game rule potentially coming into play and could determine who wins the MVP. What's your take on this? You love this or hate this from your perspective?
It's tough, but it's a catch-22 because you want when I was in the league, people wanted to play. Like everybody wanted to try to play every game. It was a great thing if you had the longest streak of games played. Like people was trying to play. It really became a problem when you turn on the game and then you realize, okay, the star's not playing because tendonitis. Little stuff like that. It's like you got to put something in place to entice people to want to play and to try to play every single game. But at the same time, 65 games that's a high number. When you playing an 82 game season, all the players that's all NBA and in the MVP race and all that, every year they have a shorter offseason than the rest of the league. They're either in the finals, conference finals, they definitely go into the playoffs. So it's like, during the season, you might need a little bit more rest or whatever it is. But at the same time, it is unfair if you got somebody like a Jaylen Brown who is proving the league wrong, proving everybody wrong in terms of he can't be that guy, he can't blah, blah. He should be in the MVP talk, and nobody has said anything about him. So if he end up playing 70 games and then somebody else play 50, that's where it get a little sticky. But at the end of the day, it is a tough rule. The best players can't always play every game. But if you can try to put something in place where it makes people want to play, they not just sitting out for a jammed finger or, like I said, tendonitis, or they got a headache. Like, it would help with those little things. But if you're actually hurt and you're trying to make a run, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure Shai don't want to play 65 games and then be tired, and not be able to win a championship. He'll rather win a championship with his brothers, with his team, for the organization. So it's two sides to it, but at the end of the day, 65 games might be a little high. I would say lower it maybe a little bit. But yeah, that's my take on it.
And I mean, you look at that outcome here about Jaylen Brown, for example, and Cade Cunningham, for example, who have had the availability necessary to be MVP. And now you've also hurt them twofold Because one, if these guys are not eligible, then they're going to be looked upon as like, well, you only won this MVP because Jokic and Shai were not there. However, if you did away with this award, like if you did away with this minimum game played here, now if Shai and Jokic just simply play 65 games, they've now checked the box, and we're not even talking about durability. We're not talking about availability. That's not being incorporated into the case for MVP of Cade Cunningham, the case for MVP of Jaylen Brown, because they might get an A+ for availability this year, but as long as Jokic and Shai manage to get a C, then they're going to win the award, right? And that hurts the players who have been more available, whereas if this rule is not in place, then that automatically just enters your mind for these guys' candidacy. And Matt Moore made that point on Locked On NBA today, which I think is a great point by you, Jeremy, and Matt. And you also look at this too. What else does it do? So if it takes away one of the bigger factors that have historically always been into proponents of who wins the MVP award, it also can make for these players rushing back. And, hopefully, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't happen. But like if you're going to get to a point, if this rule stays in place, where a superstar player who is a ratings driver, who is a face of the league, who is a player that you need if you look at this NBA as a business and as a company, you need that player to be playing in April, May, and June. They're going to be rushing back because heaven forbid that they play 64 games instead of 65 games, and then they're going to end up getting worsely hurt and be out for the most critical time of your business, be out for your largest bake sale of the year, which is where you make all your money in the NBA playoffs. And it's just every way you look at this, it is just a awful decision by the NBA to have this minimum rule in place.
So right now, guys, I'll ask each of you with everything into account, the season that's unfolded, and with this 65-game rule in mind, who do each of you think is going to end up being the MVP? We'll start with Rylan, then go to Jeremy.
I think that it'll still be Shai. He has 6 games of wiggle room, and I think that he'll be able to return sooner than later, if I had to guess, and be able to become eligible. And as long as he's eligible, I think he's going to win the award. And so if you tell me that between Shai and Jokic, one of those guys is eligible, it'll be them. But if they're not eligible, then I've got to go with Cade Cunningham. I think that with Cade Cunningham, you look at his impact on both ends of the floor, his efficiency, and the ability to lead Detroit whenever things are really hard for Cade. Like this Detroit team is really good. They're also extremely limited offensively. And for him to play around these guys who are non-shooters and his co-stars, Jalen Duren, who has to be spoon-fed every bucket that he gets, which is not a knock on Duren. It's just that's his archetype as a player. Like he doesn't have it's just his game. Cade does not have a genuine guy to relieve any pressure on him offensively, and yet he steps up, he's efficient, he leads this team, and he buys into this team where, as the superstar, he's a part of the second best defense in the NBA, the most physical defense in the NBA, and he's able to carry them to the 1 seed. So I would go with Cade if not for these two getting eligible, but I still think at the end of the day, Shai will be eligible.
What about you, Jeremy? Is this still going to be Shai's to lose?
I don't know if it'll be his to lose. The only reason I say that is because, like you said, Rylan, he got 6 games of wiggle room. Say he comes back in 2 games, 3 games. What is it going to be like the end of the season when some of them games where you want him to sit, y'all, they might be up in the standings, and the last 4 or 5 games of the season, he might play one, sit one, play one. If it really matters to him or matters to the organization, whatever, then I could see him saying, nah, I'm going to just play it out. But I also go back to his 20-point scoring streak. He not just going to want to play the first quarter. He going to want to continue to be dominant and, keep streaks alive, even though that's probably not on the forefront of his mind. And, he'd rather, win a championship. But at the end of the day, that's a great streak to have. And he's not settling for that. He wants to keep building on it. So I think that can get sticky. But other than Shai, if Shai, Jokic, if they're not available, like Rylan said, it either got to be Cade. But I would also say look at Jaylen Brown, look at Anthony Edwards. You never know where, Ant-Man is going to end up in the West. The West is a tough conference. So I would say Cade number 1, Jaylen number 2, And don't sleep on Ant-Man, number 3.
Thanks for tuning in to the Locked On Thunder podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow the Locked On Thunder podcast so you can get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get the Locked On Thunder podcast ad-free, plus the members-only Discord access and more. Head over to lockedonthunder.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Real quick, Rylan, what's coming up on the channel the next couple days?
And so we'll have a preview of the weekend ahead tonight with Brandon Rabar, DailyThunder.com, with the new injury report in hand. Once it comes out tonight, we'll be covering that. And then, of course, recapping that Denver game. Going to be in Dallas on Sunday, recapping that Mavericks game and a lot more down the road. So we're really excited, and make sure you subscribe to Locked On Thunder.
Great stuff as always, guys. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you again on Tuesday. For Rylan Stiles and Jeremy Lamb, I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. So long, everybody.